What's up everyone, my name's Robbie, this is Robbie in Manila, and today we have a video so good I might just have to retire after it. Okay fine, I'm joking, I'm not retiring from YouTube, and you know why I'm not retiring? Because it's so ridiculously hard to retire by the age of 40. I mean right now I'm in my mid-30s and I am nowhere close to being able to retire by age 40. Now as early as 23, when I was just starting to become a financial advisor, I started to learn just how hard it is to retire in general. Let alone retire at the age of 40, which is in itself very, very hard. So what I did was I created a spreadsheet to help you all grasp just how hard this retirement thing is. So I went to make the spreadsheet and I was like, hey, this is gonna take like an hour. I'm just gonna type it up, make it up, and then I'm gonna shoot this video. But the spreadsheet ended up taking me like 4 hours because I had to factor in inflation and I just completely underestimated how hard it was gonna be. So now after all this work, I think I finally have something that will help you grasp just how hard it is to retire by the age of 40. So in order for you to truly understand this whole thing, there are 4 factors or 4 assumptions that everyone kind of needs to understand. And in a lot of the things I read, blog posts and videos, I don't see people relating how these all work together in conjunction and how they affect each other. And so that's why I think the spreadsheet's really going to help you out, because it's going to help you kind of visualize this whole thing. So here are the 4 assumptions. The first assumption is the percentage of your income you need to save and invest for retirement. The second assumption is the rate of return on your investments. The third is the distribution, or you might know it as the 4% rule. And then the fourth is how much of your pre-retirement income you can live off of in retirement. So by the end of this video, you're going to understand how these factors relate to each other, how they all affect each other, and another thing that's kind of interesting is you're going to see just how hard it is for someone who makes less money to retire than it is for someone who actually makes a lot more money. Alright, I think we're ready. Let's go ahead and roll the intro and let's check out the spreadsheet. Okay everyone, let's go ahead and get started, but first there is one thing I wanted to beg you, please, pretty please, help me retire. You know how you can help me retire? By hitting the like button. All you do is you hit that like button and then suddenly YouTube's like, hey, people like this video, and they send it to more people. And one day if I get enough subscribers, I get monetized and I make money on this video and I put that money towards retirement and maybe I can retire by 40. So hit the like button. Thanks. Okay everyone, this is the spreadsheet. Now let's familiarize ourselves with the spreadsheet so we understand just how this thing works. The first thing is the profile of our person. So this person's name is Achilles Dynamite because why not? So Achilles Dynamite is the age of 25. He makes an annual income of $50,000 per year and his current retirement savings is $30,000. That's what Achilles Dynamite has. That's his profile. Now, where did I get these numbers? Well, I tried to make this a very normal person in the United States of America. So, age 25, of course, if this person wants to retire by 40, that's what we're trying to figure out. So, a 25-year-old, how hard is it for a 25-year-old to retire by the age of 40? By the way, that's 15 years down the road, and the spreadsheet works for anyone trying to retire in 15 years. So if you're like 50 years old and you want to retire at 65, these numbers are the same. We're just saying this person is that old, okay? Now, where did I get an annual income of $50,000 per year? The median income is like $47,000 a year or so for someone who's around Achilles' age. So that's where I got the number. He makes a little bit more than the median income for him for his age range. And then in terms of retirement savings, where did I get $30,000? Well, I got that from a survey that basically said that the majority of 30-year-olds, if you take the average of all 30-year-olds, they have on average around $30,000 invested and saved for retirement. So Achilles is doing a little bit better than the average because he's 25, not 30. But that's it. So he's a pretty normal person in the United States of America. That's what I was going for. So I'm trying to figure out how hard it is for a normal person like Achilles to get to the point where he can retire. So let's take a look at the assumptions. And so this is where we kind of need to see how everything starts connecting together. So we have to have a rate of return. Where did I get 8%? The long-term return for the stock market from like the 1920s is about 10 to 11%. So if you take out inflation, if you have a 10% rate of return and you take 2% inflation, or if you have 11% of return and you take out 3% inflation, you have 8%. So assume that this is an inflation-adjusted amount of money that Achilles can potentially make over the next 15 years. So his retirement age and years until he retires, we already have that, we know that part. And then income growth. So as time goes on, people tend to, on average, make more money. So how do they make more money? One is inflation. So if inflation is 2% a year or 3% a year, over the next 15 years, he should make more money if he never gets a raise, ever. But, of course, Achilles is a young guy, he's maybe working in corporate America. So maybe one day he's going to get a raise, and then he's going to get another raise, and then another raise, and hopefully Achilles' raises outpace inflation, and so he generally, in real terms, makes more money 15 years than today, okay? So that is reflected here. So this is how much Achilles will be making in 15 years. So if his income goes up by 5% every year from $50,000, at 5%, Achilles, in 15 years, like the year right before he goes to retire, he's making $103,000. And so he's making more money in today's dollars because of inflation, plus I'm assuming he's getting raises, okay? And then this is the next part that's very important. So how much can Achilles live on in retirement? So can he live on, for example, a 50% of his pre-retirement earnings? So can he live on 50% of $103,000 a year or $51,000 a year? So that's the question, right? So if this needs to be 80%, he has to live on $83,000 a year, okay? So these are the things we're trying to figure out. If you take into consideration all these factors, it's going to help us understand how hard or how easy it is for Achilles to get to where he wants to get, okay? So let's go into some of the details now. So again here, if we have Achilles, we have this scenario here, a 10% savings rate, and this is this one scenario. So Achilles, that's how much he saves the first year. It grows eventually to $302,000. If he takes 3% out of his account, and that's all he takes out because he needs to have his account not run out of money over the next however many years he's alive, right? So that is only $9,000 per year. And that's not a lot of money, right? So Achilles cannot possibly live on 3% of his money in this account. So if you take a look at how much, what percent of his pre-retirement savings this is, it's only 9% of his pre-retirement, I'm sorry, I said savings, his pre-retirement income. This is only 9% of his income. So 9% is, so this amount of money, $9,000, is 9% of $103,000. That's how much money he made. And if he takes out $9,000 a year from his savings, his retirement savings, investments, then he only is living on 9% of his income per year. Hopefully you understand this whole part. Go back and watch it again if you kind of aren't really understanding it, but that's it. So I think we should all get this part. Very important here. So let's go down to the next one. Let's say Achilles saves 20% of his income. If he does that, then he'll save $10,000 a year. So now he's saving and investing more money. That grows to more money. It grows to $509,000 for his whole retirement savings by age 40. If he takes a 3% distribution of this $500,000, now it's $15,000 a year. So he's saving, or now he's able to take more money out and live on more money. And this is now 15% of his pre-retirement earnings, okay? So now he's living on 15% of what he made right before he retired, okay? If he takes out 4%, he's living on 20% of what he made just before he retired. And at 5%, it's 25%, okay? We're really trying to figure out if Achilles can make this area green. So when this turns green, it means Achilles is meeting his requirements. So the requirements now are 50%, this 50% here. This is saying that if these get over 50%, Achilles is meeting his requirements. And this means that Achilles, in his living on 50% of his pre-retirement income, and that equals $51,000 a year. Now we could change this. If Achilles only needs to live on 10% of his pre-retirement income, it's only $10,000 a year. Of course, he's not going to be able to do that. But when that does happen, this all turns green, which means that he can save any of these savings rates, and they equal this amount of money in retirement, right? But of course, he can't live on 10% of his income. Let's make it a more normal 40%, which is still really hard. I mean, he probably can't do that either, but say he can. Well, now if Achilles saves 50% of his income every year, Achilles can live on 44% of his pre-retirement income, which is the equivalent of $45,000 per year. Okay? But here's the thing. $44,000 per year in 15 years from now is not $44,000 per year today. It's because of inflation, because of the fact that money gains value over time. It's a different, well, you have to like actually do the time value of money. So if we go here and we look at the present value, which is how much money this is actually going to be in today's dollars, he would be living on $29,000 per year. So let's say $30,000 a year. So can Achilles in 15 years live a minimalist lifestyle and live on just $30,000 a year, even though right now and today in 2021 he's used to living on $50,000 a year? Now the next really important thing I kind of want to talk about is something that a lot of people who talk about the FIRE movement I don't think talk enough about, which is the amount of income that you make and how it can really help you speed up and be able to retire earlier. So take a look at this. So what we'll do now is we'll say, what if Achilles makes a lot more money than $50,000 a year? What if he's like one of those people who has a great job? I don't know, maybe he's a lawyer or something, and he makes let's say $250,000 a year. You know, he makes good money for sure. So if Achilles makes $250,000 a year, remember, take a look over here and watch this. So his income in 15 years was $103,000, and to live on 40% of his income, he needs to live on $41,000 a year. Now, if Achilles makes $250,000, he's making $519,000 a year 15 years down the road, living on 40% of his income. He can live on $207,000 a year. That's a ton of money, right? I think anyone can live on that amount of money. You don't have to worry about insurance, probably. You don't have to worry about even the taxation on your money. You'll still have enough left over to buy food and not die, basically, is the deal, right? So this is $210,000 a year, right? So he's got $210,000 a year that he's making. That is good money. But here comes the kicker. What if Achilles who makes $250,000 a year, what if instead of living on 40% of his pre-retirement income, now he lives on 20% of his pre-retirement income? So here's what happens. Now he's living on $103,000 a year. Now this is the whole thing about this whole early retirement thing. Now, because he makes more money, he can take a huge pay cut and live for the rest of his life and still have $103,000 a year. And now a lot of this turns green, right? So if he saved 40% of his income, suddenly the 3% rule actually ends up working. And so this means he would live on $127,000 a year. What is that in today's dollars? So let's go and take a look. So we go over here, we put it in. This is how much money in today's dollars, $81,000 a year. So yes, Achilles used to make $250,000 a year. He's gonna retire early and only live on $81,000 a year. That's fine. And that's today's dollars, right? Anyone can live right now on $81,000 a year in America. Anyone can do it. Of course, okay, if you live in San Francisco, maybe you can't do it. If you live in New York City, maybe you can't do it. But if you live in a normal place, you can live on $81,000 a year for the rest of your life. And of course, with inflation, you take a little bit more out each year, and you can live for the rest of your life. And so this works. So if we go back and we just look and see, okay, well, how much money does Achilles need to live on, right? What's an amount of money that probably someone wouldn't want to live on? I don't know. Say $30,000 a year. I mean, okay, you can definitely be fine with $30,000 a year, but for the rest of your life, do you want to have only $30,000 a year? I personally would feel more comfortable having a little bit more money every year, because there comes a point where insurance gets costly, where things happen to your house and you have to make repairs. There are just expenses that just come up over time, and $30,000 a year to me is, in America, not quite enough to live for the rest of your life. There are people who can 100% do it, but comfortably, for me, no. I would want probably 40 or 50,000 minimum. So if it's 40,000 a year, where does this equal Achilles amount? So at 50%, if he saves 50% of his income, he can live on 45,000 a year. If he's living on 20% of his pre-retirement income, it's okay. He makes it, right? So, but it's easier. It's very, very easy for someone who makes more money to live on $45,000 a year, and I'll show you here. So, $250,000 again. We're making Achilles the rich Achilles here. Where does it equal $45,000 a year? He only needs to save 10% of his income, right? So suddenly, the person who makes a lot more money, if they just save 10% of their income, they can get to what Achilles needed to do, saving, let's say, 50% of his income and only living on 20% of his pre-retirement income. I mean, it's easier for someone who makes more money to do this. It just does, okay? That's the way it is. Okay, so there's the FIRE movement. Financial independence, retire early, right? Everyone knows that. But what if you just do the part of FIRE? What if you don't actually retire, but you just have financial independence, and you know what? You just cut your salary. You only work part-time, you don't like your job, you only want to make a little bit of extra money during the year, but then you want to live on your investments. So that's where this kind of does work out for Achilles, no matter how much money he makes, right? So if Achilles makes $50,000 a year and he wants to just do financial independence, well, he could take out this 3% part and take $15,000 or let's say $20,000 out of this account, and then he can also make another, let's say, $20,000 working part-time somewhere. And now suddenly Achilles has 40 grand a year, and he's probably going to be able to be fine. So there is another situation here where you can just say, well, I want to try to get to FIRE, but if I don't, at least I have financial independence for the most part. I can just work like a part-time job, and I'll get by for the rest of my life just doing some, like, making a little bit of money every month, and then it'll add up, and then I just take the additional amount that I need out of my retirement accounts, but I don't go over the 3%. Okay, so if you're confused about this whole thing, this last one I think is going to help you wrap it all together. So I'm going to put Achilles making $50,000 a year next to the Achilles making $250,000 a year, and we're going to see how they compare, what needs to happen for each of the scenarios. So the first one on the left side is Achilles making $50,000 a year, $250,000 a year on the right side. Now let's go with the 30% savings rate. So let's say Achilles saves 30% of his income every year. What does that get him? So that gets him $716,000 in 15 years when he's 40. Now, if we go over here, the 3% rule, which is the conservative rule that I would suggest most people use, he only has $21,000 a year to live on, and that is not enough money. But if Achilles makes a lot of money, $250,000 a year, how much does he have at that point in time? Well, at 30% savings rate, he has $3.2 million in 15 years. He has a great amount of money to retire on. And at 3%, that's $96,000 a year. And is $96,000 a year enough to retire on in 15 years? Yes, it absolutely is. You can easily have a nice life living on that amount of money. But you cannot have a nice life if you live on $20,000 a year. It's not going to happen. And so the final thing is that we might want to say is how much money would Achilles need to save in order to be able to retire and live comfortably and not die from not being able to afford food. And so my answer to this would be first to think about the future and then take the money back into today's dollars. So I would say this is probably the amount. So $50,000 in 2036 is about $30,000 in today's dollars. I would never want to retire for the rest of my life on less than $32,000 a year. So maybe that's just me, but that's the limit. I would never go less than that. So how do we get there on the spreadsheet? What does Achilles need to do to get to $50,000 a year in annual income 15 years down the road? Well, the only scenario where it starts happening is if he saves 60% of his income and uses the 4% rule, which, like I said, is a more aggressive, riskier way of doing this. It never works for the 3% rule. He would probably have to save around 80% of his income to get there. And at that point in time, saving 80% of your income, it's really hard. Is it sustainable for 15 years? Not many people can ever do that. I mean, maybe some people can, but very likely it's not going to happen. And the other side of the coin is just how much easier it is for someone who makes a lot of money, who saves a good chunk of that money to retire. So if the person who makes $250,000 a year were to save 60% of their income, they could live on $180,000 a year at 3%. So at what point could they get to that amount that Achilles is getting to? Well, they could do it if they only saved between 10 and 20% of their income per year. So let's say if they save 15% of their income per year, they could get to where Achilles needs to be, who needs to save 60% of his income to get there. Okay? So that's the answer. Achilles making 50 grand a year, needs to save 60% of his income. Achilles making $250,000 a year, only needs to save about 15% of his income. That's why it's so much easier for someone who makes more money to get to this whole FIRE thing. Okay, everyone, so thanks so much for watching. That's all we have for today's video. Please leave a little comment. Let me know if you're trying to get to FIRE, financial independence, or retire early, or both. What are you doing? Yeah, just let me know. And then also, I'd be very interested to hear if you like these more financial independence, retire early type videos. If you want to see more of them, tell me if you liked it. I'll make some more if you do. So thanks again so much for watching, and please hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more content that's like this, and please watch another one of my videos by clicking on it on the end screen that's coming up right now.